Manager for Salt Lake County Watershed Planning and Restoration. She has a Bachelor of Science Degree in Biology from Portland State University and an MPA in Natural Resource Management from the University of Utah. And she is also currently working on a Ph.D. at the University of Utah, focusing on the energy-water nexus. So today she'll be speaking to us about adapting watershed management to climate change.
Thank you very much, everybody, for letting me come talk. I'm right after lunch, so I'm assuming everybody will be a little bit sleepy, which is fine. So I'm going to go and start my timer here. Well, again, I am the Watershed Section Manager for Salt Lake County. And our program, we are the Watershed Planning and Restoration Program. And what we do is basically integrated watershed planning. Again, looking at a holistic approach of watershed planning, including data analysis, stream restoration, and protection, and also the social aspect and education and outreach. So we are responsible for integrated watershed planning to address area-wide water quality planning. And if you look at that map there, we're pretty fortunate that Salt Lake County, our boundaries are pretty consistent with the watershed, off just a little bit. And we do know that water does cross jurisdictional boundaries. That's very important to know, but we are pretty fortunate in that aspect. So in 1978, Governor Matheson designated us as the Area-Wide Water Quality Planning Authority. And that was in particular to the Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. And that's when we completed our first area-wide watershed plan, or water quality plan really, per Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. In 2005, we revisited that plan and realized a lot had changed. And so we updated that, and again, in this one we did more of a holistic approach. So we did a watershed plan, not just a water quality plan. So we looked at hydrology, habitat, water quality, and again the social component. And this plan, we received a lot of great recognition for this because we did do a holistic approach to watershed planning and even national recognition, which we're very proud of. And we just now completed our update to this plan, our 2015 Integrated Watershed Plan. We did change the name because it does incorporate Section 208 of the Clean Water Act, and also it is a watershed plan. And with this plan, we added a little more robustness to it. So we looked at some pilot projects to address water quality. We did more monitoring analysis of the monitoring we had started to do in the 2009 plan, through which we're currently still doing, and also climate change effects on precipitation or runoff, and evaluation of our land use practices and population. And you'll see here a lot has changed and will change with the land use in Salt Lake County. In particular on the west side, we expect a lot of development to occur. Kennecott or Rio Tinto now has decided to start developing that area over there, which they were just holding off for mining activities. So that whole west side will be developed very soon. And with that, we expect a lot of change to our impervious services, which, as everybody knows, that has a lot of issues for conveyance of water and also pollutant loads. And as mentioned, with this plan, we did a much more robust climate change analysis. So the 1978 plan, as you can imagine, nothing was really mentioned of climate change in 1978. In the 2009 plan, we mentioned climate change, but it was more of a half page, and it was called weather variability or something like that. They didn't even use the words climate change, because I think the political climate at the time for the Salt Lake County Council. But this time around, we're like, no, we're going full charge ahead. We're doing a full climate change analysis for Salt Lake County. And so we did modeling, and with that modeling, we simulated both the wet and dry conditions of climate change. And we looked in the valley, and this was Salt Lake City International Airport, and then we also looked up at the headwaters, so looking up at the summits of Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons. So two completely ecosystems that we're looking at there. And as we suspected, there is going to be a increase in temperatures, and there's going to be changes in the precipitation and our runoff patterns throughout Salt Lake County. And this is going to have significant issues for our water resources as well as water quality. And I think everybody remembers what happened this last summer with the algae blooms that we had. Also, we analyzed local studies that have been done. Salt Lake City has been very proactive analyzing climate change, in particular with water resources and water delivery. And they predict with the increased temperatures, this could reduce the availability of our water supply and also alter the timing. We analyze how this is going to affect some of our watershed functions. So habitat, these changes in temperatures, we're going to see changes in our habitat and our plant species over the next few decades. Species that are much more drought tolerant are going to be more prevalent. Some of our riparian species are going to have issues, and part of that's going to be because of hydrology. Again, changes in timing of our peak flow events. We're going to have higher peak flow events, but our timing is going to be off, and then we're going to have the creeks, a lot of them already run dry. And with that, we're losing some of our riparian habitat, and as a result, the banks lose their stability, and then we're going to experience more scouring of those banks with these high flow events. Surface water temperatures, again, during the drier periods, we're going to find that we're going to have warmer water, and again, that's going to cause issues with our water quality and, again, more harmful algae blooms. Our recreation, Salt Lake County and also Summit County have a lot of recreation with skiing and outdoor activities. And they're well aware that climate change is going to affect them, and it already has started affecting that. And this, again, will reduce the availability of winter recreation. Another thing we looked at this time around with our watershed planning is the energy water nexus. And yes, that's something I'm studying as well for my Ph.D., so I might have been a little biased in encouraging this analysis. So first, how we use energy for water. So EPA estimates about 3 to 4% of our water is used for energy for delivery of our drinking water, stormwater, and also our wastewater. And it's about 30 to 40% of our municipal use. That's a significant amount. So that's something Salt Lake County needs to address that with our infrastructure and management systems. Salt Lake City, again, has been pretty proactive with working on evaluating improvements for energy efficiency for their water delivery and wastewater. Again, how we use water for energy. We use a lot of water to produce energy. In particular, different kinds of energy such as coal and crude oil, natural gas use a lot of water to produce that energy. So Salt Lake County has been pretty proactive with trying, as they build more buildings or retrofit buildings, making these buildings either LEED buildings or using LEED technology to help again with the energy efficiency. Again, watershed protection will be another way that Salt Lake County can address this energy use. So another component of this recent plan is environmental justice. Who here knows what environmental justice is? Yeah, at least I got some hands, so that's a good thing. So I think we're the first entity in Utah to incorporate environmental justice in our watershed planning. So we're very proud of that. And that's an EPA initiative, and that is the fair and equal treatment of all people regardless of race, color, national origin, or income with respect to environmental effects of development, as well as the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and rules. So if you've heard of EJ 2014 or EJ 2020, that's an EPA initiative to incorporate more environmental justice. Also, if anybody here is actively looking for funding, EPA and other entities now are requiring environmental justice components. So we're lucky that we're already ahead of the game on that. And with that, for our environmental justice group, we looked at low income and minority populations. And you'll notice here, is my laser pointing? Is it working? There we go. That's where we're noticing more of the lower income minority populations. That's also where the Jordan River is, and we may experience more increased flooding with climate change. Also, there are issues with the levees in those areas, so we have to go back and fix those levees, or else those populations, those areas will have to start buying flood insurance. And FEMA has decided they will no longer subsidize flood insurance. So now these lower income areas will have to pay probably about $10,000 a year for flood insurance. So that's another thing we have to address with climate change, is the social aspect as well. Water quality data collection. A lot of entities, University of Utah, Utah State University, BYU, a lot of researchers have been using our data, so we're very happy with that. So we've been collecting data since 2009. And again, our original plan, the 2009 plan, we realized we don't have enough water quality data out there, nor do our partners. So we have a very robust data collection program. And you'll notice a lot of it is here on the east side. And reason being, we use a density model. Most of the creeks on the west side are intermittent, whereas the east side, they're perennial. So that's why we collect mostly on the east side. Plus access, we have access issues on the west side, especially with Rio Tinto and Kennecott areas. So this is dry weather sampling. This is not stormwater sampling, but dry weather sampling for planning purposes. And we collect a variety of parameters, so biological, physical, and we use this for, again, our planning, our restoration, and also the regulatory entities use it for their integrated report and TMDLs. And this gives you an idea of some of the parameters we collect. This is, again, real-time monitoring. This is not samples that we take into the lab. So we do that as well, but that's more of a case or study purposes. So right now, Salt Lake County, that watershed, pretty much the whole urban area is impaired predominantly for E. coli. We've also increased our stream gauge program. So with that, we use the new contrail system, and we're also increasing the number of stream gauges that we have throughout Salt Lake County. So if anybody's interested in stream gauge data, you are welcome to go onto our new webpage to get information on stream gauge data. Also, we're using Aquarius now to create some rating curves. So we use that information as well for our restoration, which gives me into restoration. So we do quite a bit of restoration in our group, which is challenging because we are a small group, small program. And we use the data that we collect, again, the stream gauge data, the watershed planning data, and our water quality data to identify locations and also solutions to stream gauge, or stream restoration, also LID or low impact development. And again, with this, we're using more of a holistic approach. Who here has seen riprap in creeks? The whole goal is to decrease mannings in. Has anybody seen that at all in water bodies? Yeah, so we're trying to go away from that. So again, we're using more holistic, using more vegetation, more plants, using more of a natural channel design. We're using inter-CSS bioengineering and using the appropriate vegetation for the particular issue or problem at hand, and also bank stabilization. With that, we're also incorporating climate change, knowing again that we're going to have that increase in peak flows and change in timing. And so what we're doing is we're using a more natural channel approach. Let's make the channel as it is, it's supposed to be, but increasing the floodplain. So when we have those peak flow events, it has a place for the water to go, but then it goes back and it can still convey that water and sediment. And here's an example right here. This is the Jordan River along the confluence of Little Cottonwood Creek. And you can see there's significant scouring right in here. The Jordan River is a highly managed river, very managed. And for one example, at Utah Lake, because of water rights, they have these gates at Utah Lake. And they have to maintain a very specific water level within an inch. Now, if that water level goes up, they open the gates. So you can have flows that go from 40 CFS to 1,000 CFS. When the water level goes down, they close the gates. And then the water level drops dramatically. So as you can imagine, establishing vegetation is very challenging. Also, that has a significant impact on the stream banks with scouring. So restoration on the Jordan River is very, very tricky. Very tricky. I used to work in the Uinta Basin up in the Strawberry, and boy, I had no idea until I came to the Jordan River what it means to be tricky and so many parameters you have to address. So here we went in, we brought that back. We used tow wood. Here, again, more of a natural channel design, bioengineering to bring that in, and that's how we are stabilizing those banks, but also letting the river be natural. We have more of a floodplain, as you can see. I don't know if you can tell, but we have, those are willow stakes. We have over 12,000 willow stakes. We have riparian vegetation that we installed and seeding. We go back routinely and we're doing weed mitigation on that and reseeding and revegetation. We also have upland vegetation. Here's another picture of before. Again, as mentioned, especially with climate change, we're noticing more and more scouring of these banks. Here again, we went in the same spot. Tow wood protection, again, more of the willow stakes, trees, cottonwoods, and again, upland vegetation. A lot of these areas we don't have irrigation, and because of the drastic change in water levels in that water table, you need irrigation to get plants established, so we're trying to use vegetation that can establish naturally without irrigation. And here's a picture of the tow wood being installed. And actually, they're doing phase 2 of this project right now, literally as we speak. I feel kind of bad I'm in this warm building while they're standing in the river installing tow wood, but that's all right. And here we are installing some riparian sod mats. So everybody's heard of sod mats for lawns. This is riparian sod mats. So these mats right here come in 16-foot sections, and they're fantastic because the vegetation's already been installed. You basically hammer them down with T-posts or stakes or something like that in the water, and they establish within weeks the vegetation, the roots. It's amazing, and it saves so much time. It's already established, and you can actually select what kind of vegetation you want. So here we have some woolly sedge, Nebraska sedge, whatever vegetation you want, you can pre-order these sod mats. They are expensive, but that's fine because they save so much time and they work amazing. Another thing we encourage is low impact development. This is Professor Steve Marian. I don't know if anybody here knows Steve, but that's the Civil and Materials Engineering Stormwater Bioretention Basin. And according to Steve, that's the first designed and planned bioretention basin in Utah. It's for Steve. And it works very well. And it's been a great demonstration project that we have taken many entities and groups to in field trips to show how this actually can work in Utah. Some of the biggest barriers we have, basically people think we don't have enough water to install these retention ponds, or it doesn't look pretty. So this is a great example where it does actually work. And here it is actually functioning as a stormwater detention basin, and you can see it collecting a lot of stormwater, taking all those pollutants, and helping filter those out. One of the issues we have with Salt Lake County planning is installing LIDs for development is not a required thing, but it's only optional. We do not have an ordinance where it is required for developers to have stormwater BMPs in place. So one thing we're doing is some education. So our program and the Jordan River Commission, we're having a workshop on November 18th. Everybody's welcome to come if you're interested. Just look at that webpage to say, hey, low impact development does work, green infrastructure does work. There are actual economic benefits to this. So again, because it's optional, we have to show their economic benefits long term. And it's pretty tricky with developers. They want to develop right then and there, not really thinking about the future or the long-term benefits. So this is one of the workshops we're putting on if anybody is interested. We also do significant education and outreach. Again, our Watershed Symposium, classroom events, guides, you name it. And here's one of our outreach events. This is the Water Quality Fair at the Hogle Zoo that happens every year in April. Thousands and thousands of fourth graders come to this event. It's not stressful at all. No. But, oh my goodness. But it can be pretty crazy. And here we teach them about what is a watershed and how ways you can help be a good steward of the watershed. And it's surprising how few people actually know what a watershed is, including the parents. So it's a great opportunity to teach the parents as well. Again, we partnered here with the Center for Documented Expression and Arts and Jordan River Commission to create an interactive webpage for the Jordan River, and this is actually going to be expanded to other parts of the watershed as well. So you can look it up. If you're on the Jordan River, you can walk and you get ideas of where some restoration has occurred, where it will occur. If you see an issue, you can report that issue. Some more outreach, we created the Stream Care Guide for homeowners. Homeowners have a big impact on creeks, and in Salt Lake County, especially on the east side, a lot of development has occurred along the water bodies, unfortunately right next to the water bodies. And this happened, 100 years ago, and unfortunately still does happen. And so with that, we said, let's give them a handbook, a guide of how they can be better stewards, teaches them about their particular water bodies and vegetation they can install. So instead of bluegrass, here's some riparian vegetation, here's some upland vegetation, some natural vegetation. So it's a really good resource here, and a lot of people said they've been very happy about it. We're going to order, I think we printed 5,000 copies. We're going to have to print another 5,000. This has been such high demand, so it's been really a great resource. And also our Watershed Symposium. So that is coming up November 15th and 16th of this year. Again, this event is free. We try to keep it free so anybody interested can attend. students, the interested public, you name it. And we get a lot of people coming to this, and I know some people here, I've seen faces that come to this event. So thank you for coming, and please come again. We get a lot of researchers, professionals, students, again, the interested public come to this, and we get a lot of abstracts. And each year we have something on climate change, and we're getting more and more abstracts on climate change we're excited about. So last year, we had a big panel discussion on climate change, which is fantastic. Again, I felt like I was kind of putting my head out there on a chopping block by saying, hey, let's have a big discussion on this, and it was great. We got a lot of great feedback, even from my county council, so that was very exciting. So yeah, you never know what the reaction will be. But yeah, so we had a great panel discussion, and it went really well, and we have a lot of great presentations again this year, so we really encourage everybody to attend this. So again, it's free. We're also going to have a community event on Tuesday night. We're going to be showing the Return of the River. It's a screening with the Utah Film Society at the library, and again, the workshop, which will be on Friday. And I can't express how much we cannot do this alone. We need partners and collaboration with this. So we have amazing partners, and these are just a few of our partners that we work with. But again, we're happy to work with anybody on projects or ideas, because again, we are limited on resources, and I think everybody is pretty limited on resources. By collaborating, I think we get a lot more done, a lot more accomplished, and it's a much more robust and effective partnership. So with that, any questions? So we work with Salt Lake City quite a bit. So Salt Lake City in 1903 gained jurisdiction of those lands because that is our drinking water source. So basically those lands up in Big and Little Cottonwood, that is our reservoir. So that water storage is snowpack, that is our drinking water. And that's one reason we have the most amazing drinking water probably in the nation. It's pretty fantastic. So Salt Lake City does purchase a lot of lands. I can't speak for them, so what they're doing up there, I'm really not sure. So we do work with them. We submit our watershed plan to Salt Lake City, and I don't remember how many stakeholders in the public for comment. And so they do comment on that. So we do work with them quite a bit. They do have their own watershed plan and management, so I can't really say what they're going to do with that or speak to that. So, other questions? Yes?
So as our cash flow gets developed, particularly out in the agricultural areas, there's no way to keep people from building right up next to the rivers, and I'm wondering if the county, if Salt Lake County, if the municipalities have a setback ordinance.
You know, we do have ordinances. The county does because of flooding. So we have ordinances, and they're looking at the revising what we call our FCAS, so Foothill Canyons Overlay Zone Ordinance, and looking at a 100-foot setback. It's tough. It is really tough because sometimes the cities will just incorporate because they want to do their own planning. They don't like the setback ordinances. Again, I would strongly encourage a significant setback ordinance. As we all know, rivers are very dynamic. They'll do what they want to do. And also with any sort of high flow events, especially with climate change, we're going to experience much more scouring and much more erosion. And we see it again at the county where people have already developed close up, and now the river, there's no place to go, so they just armor it. We do have setback ordinances for building. One thing we looked at the Jordan River as well, we wanted to develop a meander corridor ordinance. So, saying this is where the river can actually meander. We don't have infrastructure here. Let's let it meander. Plus, we suspect it will meander here because other areas where it's been armored. And we were unable to get an ordinance through. Reason being is private property rights is paramount in Utah. And it is very, very challenging to get ordinances across that go against private property rights. Salt Lake City has been a really good entity that for their water bodies has done a riparian ordinance saying, okay, now you can't do any sort of development or anything unless you get a permit, which has been really good. So we would love to see more ordinances in place with setback ordinances for building. It would be great. And one thing we would love to do at Salt Lake County is have one for the west side saying no development next to the water bodies. It hasn't been developed yet. Let's try to keep that setback, so we don't have what's going on the east side. But right now, we have 20-plus foot banks, because there's no place for the creek to go but down cut more. So, any other questions? Yes?
Is there getting support for those type of ordinances and codes that sort of support, green building practices and low impact development? Is there support for that locally? More support than the nexus now?
I think, sorry, my timer says I'm done. So there is more support. I think as we progress and as we see more of the issues that have happened, 2010 and 2011, we had significant flooding in the county. And I think when people saw that, they were like, whoa, it can flood here. Maybe we should consider having some setback ordinance. I think same thing with LID. People, I've seen some of the issues with, again, with climate change and pollution, the harmful algae blooms. They were pretty awful, and we're going to expect more and more of those to occur, especially with Utah Lake and other entities, and people are realizing, wait a minute, we need to do something about this. So I think seeing those those events that occur have really opened people's eyes. So I think there will be more and more support, and I noticed it at least at the policymakers at the political level, and just, I think the decision makers have all been all for it. It's more the political will. And I think there is more political will as we have more and more of these events occur. Again, that's my opinion, but that's what I've noticed. So. All right.
You mentioned that without the subsidy, that flood insurance would cost about $10,000 a year. How much does it cost with the subsidy?
So right now we're finding, and she asked about subsidies for flood insurance with FEMA. So right now it's probably about $2,000 a year we estimate for some of these homes. That's a significant amount, I think, for anybody. So especially these lower income homes. So, and without the subsidy, it'll be about $10,000. That's a lot of money per year for flood insurance. All right. Any other questions? All righty. Thank you, everybody.